All right, we are here Friday night at Woodside Baptist Church for the Colorado Invitational Tournament, the 18th annual CI Tournament, live in Denver, Colorado. This is currently live.
Is this really the 18th?
The 18th.
Man, do I feel old.
You are old.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it there.
All right, you made me turn Emily's microphone up. No one heard her crack about me being old.
There we go. Let's bump this up a little bit.
All right, Jono has done a great job introducing us.
And so here we are. I guess I'll introduce Emily for those of you who have not spoken with Emily. She refused an interview earlier.
Because I was eating.
Priorities.
She is our primary Division II analyst.
Yes, guest analyst Emily Milner here to analyze some material we have.
And I am the primary Elite Division analyst. Not that we won't comment on the others, but we did this a couple years ago, and we found it to be something that a lot of people liked, especially because if you're on the East Coast, starting 9 a.m. quizzing here is 11 a.m. And while that's not earlier than I wake up, or later than I wake up. It's not something. But a lot of people like to wake up before that. And so, we like to do this recap where we talk about it. So Jono's going to man that. Emily and I will talk about it, and Jono will make some smart comments, I'm sure, occasionally. Mm-hmm. But we're going to start with the preliminary results of Division II. The surprise team, and in my preview, I previewed this. The surprise team was First Baptist California. And they're at the top, along with Kettle Moraine 2. They both have 4 highs and 1 middle. Those are the 2 top teams. Now, did you see both of those teams, Miss Milner?
I did. I actually quizzed against both of them. They are great teams, absolutely awesome teams. I really, really enjoyed quizzing against First Baptist. They were so energetic. They know their stuff. Just awesome teams to quiz against.
Yeah, and they're a surprise because when I did not pick them to be amongst the top teams. I did not think they would do well. I thought I'm not saying they wouldn't do well. I did not pick them to be at the top. They're in the first seed, sitting right there now with Kettle Moraine 2. They've got to be one of the favorites to win, and that surprised me. Were you surprised when you quizzed against them?
Honestly, I didn't have really many expectations coming into that because I've actually never quizzed against them.
Because you're expectation free.
Exactly.
All right.
Maybe. I don't know.
All right.
No, but it was kind of a nice breath of fresh air because you see some people who are just like so really intense, and that's great, but just seeing the excitement in that, it was just...
Yeah, and sometimes I think we get to the point where we see quizzes so often we don't have that same excitement. We don't have that same enthusiasm that we once may have. And it was enthusiastic. It was awesome, and they're a great team, a great addition to the tournament. I'm glad they came, and I hope they come for years to come.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now Kettle Moraine 2, that's the team. Is that the team that Booger's on?
I didn't personally speak with Booger tonight, so I cannot affirm or deny that.
Well, they have 2 teams, and both of them only have like 2 people on them. Which one has? Well, it doesn't matter. Both of their teams are pretty good. They're sitting at 1 and 4, tied for 1. So we'll say 2nd and 4th, and they're very good. Having 2 teams split up, doing well, that's pretty exciting. What were your thoughts of the 2 Kettle Moraine teams? You quizzed against both of them, you said?
Yes, yeah. I actually quizzed against them in the same quiz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
did they team up?
Needless to say, we lost.
Well, we weren't going to go there, but...
No, it was great. It was neat to see. They weren't sure they played off each other as any 2-team quiz smart to do. But they each held their own. They did great. It wasn't one team always helping the other. They're both great teams.
Okay. Now, Mukwonago, they normally have an elite division team. This year they don't, but their Division II team very solid, currently sitting in 3rd seed. Mm-hmm. Did you quiz them? Did you see them?
I'm sure I did, but honestly,
you may not have. You may be quizzing them tomorrow.
I think we're quizzing them tomorrow. I think that's what
Mukwonago, Mrs. Bird, great coach, just has a wonderful program. We were talking about it with some of the elite teams. We miss seeing her around some of those elite division quizzes, but it's just fantastic continuing to build a program, even in a year when they graduate like 5 seniors the year before. So, yeah, that's good. The Temple JV team, do you remember them?
Yes.
You do?
They are great.
They are. They are, in fact, great. Okay, Jono, it looks like... amazing words of
Wow.
wisdom.
I was just observing a few of our speakers online. Or getting a little feedback there. I had a great time with going back a little bit with a team from first. Now I'm not sure if it
The
was
team that's in first. It may have been
it
their
may have
second
been
team.
first two. I'm not actually completely sure which team I got to talk to. I talked with them and I talked with McQuanago. Did I talk with Temple tonight?
No.
I can't say.
Temple too. I'm trying to find where they're at on my page.
Okay.
But we had a great time talking with them. They're full of energy. All those teams. They got people that know their stuff, and
Absolutely.
it was exciting to talk with them. Even just you talking about McQuanago's coach, Mrs. Bird.
Yes.
Mrs. Bird and Pastor Bird. Great insights of
Now, you have a connection to McQuanago. Is that right?
yeah.
Do you want to tell us about that connection?
Well, you see, back in the day, no, I have no connection to McQuanago. I was just see if I can make up some goofy stories.
All right.
But their insights into just I was asking a question all night. Our theme is the greatest of these. The greatest is charity, and I was asking, what is your favorite characteristic of charity that means the most to you and why? And their insights in of what charity and love means to them really shows that they're not just pounding their quizzers, hey, memorize, but they're teaching them this is God's word.
Yeah.
And I know we're not in Timothy, but we know that 2 Timothy says that all Scripture is given by
I've heard that
inspiration,
somewhere. Yeah.
and it is profitable. And so it's showing that they're teaching that to their quizzers, and that's truly what's most important.
Sure.
The trophies are great, but those are only temporary. Next year, nobody's going to care who won first this year.
What?
Nobody's going to care because they're going to want to win it that year. But what matters is the lessons that they learned from first and second.
Yeah, it's certainly
so
something you can take away.
That is really happening from the coaches down has been great for me to see.
Yeah, and let me say this. One of the things that surprised me is I'm looking at these Division II results. We have First Baptist California in the first seed. You got McQuanago at the third seed, essentially. You've got Heartland at sixth, Faith Baptist from California seventh. I stated that I thought the top teams would all be JV teams that didn't have that had a team in the elite division, but that is not the case. 4 of the top 7 teams are teams that don't have a team in the elite division, and I think that's a switch from past years where we saw a domination of junior high teams and second teams from ministries that had elite division teams, which I think is pretty cool.
And it's typical for you to think that because you're thinking, well, they're quizzing against these great quizzers in practice every week. They're quizzing against these elite division quizzers and getting that competition. But this year, I mean, like you said, so many of the teams, they're either brand new, they don't have a Division I or an elite division team, and really a surprise is how well they are all doing.
Absolutely. So, some final thoughts on your Division II there, Emily. What did you think? Coming away, you had a whole evening of quizzes. You quizzed like 5 times. What are your thoughts? I mean, as the whole night, how does it differ from what you thought? How is it the same? And what are your thoughts about the teams you're quizzing against?
Well, overall, I think it's really evident how much work everybody has been putting in. I mean, you talking about, quizzing against better quizzers and everything like that, but I think the ultimate deciding factor in how well these people are doing is the amount of work they put in behind the scenes. So I think I'm blown away.
Yeah.
I am at a loss for words.
Okay. No, that's awesome.
But
yeah, the Division II division has been fantastic this year and much better. I think the gap between Division II and Division I is less than it has been in the past.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Far exceeding my expectations. I mean,
yeah,
there's
you were hoping to go dominate, I know.
Oh, yeah, no.
But we sent you down there as a spy for CI2014,
Exactly.
so we're okay with that.
Inside info right here. But no, seriously, there's going to be, I think, a real battle tomorrow for the top. There are some
Yeah.
teams.
You want to pick a top 3 teams? Most of them. I'm looking at the stats. I mean, I'll pick top 3 teams. I'm going to say McQuanago, who I picked to be in the top 3, but First Baptist, who I did not. I'm saying they're now going to be in the top 3. And a Kettle Moraine, I'm going to go with their 2 team instead of their 1 team, although both are very good. I'm going to say those will be the top 3. 2 teams from Wisconsin and 1 from California.
Well, way to steal my answer.
Is that what you were going to go with?
That's actually exactly what I was.
Well, then let's step out and say Temple. No.
They probably could. They could come back and steal it.
Sure, Temple's a very good team, very good program. To quote David Poston from 4 years ago, they're building a dynasty there. Well, they've kind of built it. The problem is their dynasty always gets them second place in the Elite Division. Which, segue this, the Elite Division, they had 2 teams in the Elite Division this year. They're trying something new. I talked to Mr. Balk, I talked to Cullen Baggett, one of their better quizzers, and they're like, we're not winning doing what we have been doing. We're going to try something new. We're going to try to split it up, see if we can do well, and see if we can help build a team for the future by separating into 2 teams. And that's what they've done. And so far, they are the top seed in the Elite Division.
It's obviously working.
Well,
they're doing something right.
To some extent, it's working. Now, Heritage Mission and Athens are tied for second with more high wins. And as we look at the schedule for tomorrow, we've got those teams you have some of them quizzing each other. You have Athens is quizzing in their second quiz. Well, they're quizzing Temple 1. So that second quiz in Mr. Douglas's room is got 2 of the top team, and then the Z team, whoever one thought would be a top team, and is seated down there at 9th. So yeah, that should be an interesting quiz. But we have the list of teams right now. First is Temple 1. That's not a huge surprise, but splitting the team, I don't know that anyone thought in the round robin quizzes that they would do as well as they have. They only have 820 points scored in the quizzes, whereas Heritage Mission has 940 and Athens has 930. And then there's 920 for the Z team, Bethel Calvary. I don't know why we call them the Z. Anyway, but that is neither here nor there. But those 3 teams are the only 3 that have scored over 900, which says to me that despite how the wins and losses are measuring up, I think those are the top 3 teams performance-wise, even if the wins and losses don't measure up. I think that tells you the best team, not necessarily the team that's going to win, but those tell you the teams that have been the most dynamic throughout the day. What do you think about that theory that I'm posing?
Well, honestly, I think even the best team is not always going to be the team to win. We've seen that in. So wait a second. Seen that before.
Let me make sure I understand this. You are proposing that in a tournament, the best team doesn't always win.
I think that is very possible.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's deep, Ed.
You just blew my mind.
Mind blowing.
The best team doesn't always win. I'm shocked by this, John. What do you think?
Well, I think I understand what she's saying. She's saying the best team may not have the best.
We know that the best team doesn't always win. If the best team always won, you wouldn't have different winners in different tournaments.
Whoa, okay, let's.
Look at the Broncos.
Okay,
our cameraman is speaking of things that need not to be said.
Fortunately for those online, he doesn't have a microphone.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I can hear him.
Yeah.
So no, I understand what she's saying.
Yeah, the best team doesn't always win. That's a fact.
Because you are the best team. We were having a discussion just before we went on about a competition where there was a group that was clearly better, and they did not come out on top. Things happen that don't go in your favor.
It happens.
You've prepared, and you are the best. But things happen that are out of your control.
And I will say at this tournament, that happens less often than at any other tournament because of the robust round robin, because you're having a number of quizzes to determine the seeding, and then that seeding goes in. I don't think any tournament has as accurate of a determination as this tournament. I think this tournament has the best. And so I think the best teams tend to win this tournament. The best teams tend to win every tournament. If you go and you win 4 years in a row at a tournament, you can say, well, they weren't the best team. But at some point you got to say, well, that was a really good team. But if you're saying who I think the best teams are performance tonight, Heritage Mission, Athens, and the Z team, I think are the best teams. Temple 1 has no losses, and because of that, they've slid through. They only have 3 high wins though. But that's a good team, and I don't think they're a bad team by any stretch of the imagination. I know Athens, they woke up at 3:00 Eastern time, and they just left a few minutes ago, which right now Eastern time is after 11. So they were working on hour number 20. I expected them to be a little tired. I still think they're the class of the field after what I've seen.
And David talked with me before the tournament, and we talked here on CITV, and he was telling me he was expecting probably some of the worst quizzing they've done. And
and he said it was the worst quiz. Like, I had him in the last quiz of the day. He's like, man, we've been terrible. I mean, and they honestly thought they had done terribly.
And if they have 930 points overall,
and
this is the worst quizzing they've ever done.
Yeah.
That terrifies me for other teams.
They're a great
tomorrow
team.
Morning.
Oh, yeah.
They're rested. They're coming in ready to roll.
They're a very good team. I still think they're the class of the field. I saw the other teams.
If that's their worst, I can't wait to see their best.
They're great. They're. I mean,
because you're in Division 2 and
I predicted them to win.
Exactly.
I predicted them to win beforehand. I'm sticking with that prediction. I think they're the best team, and I think they're going to win because they're the best team.
I concur.
All right. Well, Heritage Mission has been great. Temple has been great. Those two teams are seed up there. Hillsdale. Now, I picked Hillsdale to finish in the top 3 along with Bethel, Calvary, and Athens. Hillsdale right now is sitting in the 4th seed. They were a little uneven. They have 1 high, 1 low, but 4 middles. What that usually suggests to me, and seeing them quiz, I would say this further proves it to me, is generally when you get a bunch of middles, not a lot of highs, not a lot of lows, suggests you've got one really good quizzer, and then the rest of the supporting cast okay, and that's what I saw. Cat, very good. And I mentioned earlier that the cheddar that we were talking about, he was dynamic in that when he tried to stand up, he was up first like 75% of the time. Mm-hmm. Kat is normal. She's a good quizzer, but she's not like freakishly up first all the time. Yes. When she tries to get up first, she gets up first at a normal clip, maybe a little better than normal. 20% is normal for someone trying to stand up to be up first. Because on the average question, 5 people stand up, but those are stats that nobody cares about at this time. But she might be up 25, 30. I'm not saying she's not a bad quizzer. She's a very good quizzer, and that's what this suggests to me. When you have 1 high, 4 middles, 1 low, that suggests one really good quizzer. It's hard to carry a whole
team on your back. It'll do, like you're saying, it'll do enough to get you a middle win, but unless you get some help, it's hard to get a high.
Well, you don't get eliminated by middle wins. So
no, exactly.
With that in mind, they can go
ride
far.
Middle all the way to the finals.
And they might just do that. Right now they're sitting as the 4th seed. They're pretty good. That's second Temple team. 5th seed. That's pretty amazing. When you have 2 Temple teams in the top 5 seeds, a very good team. You're familiar with the Temple ministry there, Emily. I don't know if you've seen them quiz this year, but what are your thoughts about taking 6 quizzers and putting them on 2 different teams?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about that because I don't know, honestly, how they structure their quiz practices and everything. But I know personally, for me, it's hard from our practices, seeing what we do, to separate quizzers who have bonded and who know how to work off of each other and everything. So, but obviously, I mean, it's working for them.
It's working in the preliminary. We'll see how it turns out in the tournament. I remember a couple of years ago when we had the top seed eliminating the first 2 quizzes. So
exactly.
It does happen, but I mean, so far they're doing well, as good or better than anyone expected.
I think for how I think they have enough strong quizzers that they're going to do great. I don't expect them to do terrible because they're separated into 2 different teams. I think they will do well. I'm looking forward to seeing them quiz against each other.
The teams I should say that most, and I would say this, when you split up that Temple team, their number 1 team has the potential to win. Those are their top 2 quizzers. In my mind, Cullen and Ariana, I think, are their top 2 quizzers. You may think Grant or Kendra or Nathaniel are on there, but I look at Grant and Kendra and Nathaniel as good quizzers who, when now they're relied upon, let's see how they step up. And if they step up to a degree where they're, even if they lose this tournament, but where they're solid and they know what it's like to be depended upon and they feel like they can quiz better, and then they rejoin Cullen and Ariana, who I think are their 2 best quizzers, you may end up with a team that really is hitting their stride at Squannet and ACS.
Dynamic.
Yeah, it could end up being that way. So anyway, so with those 2 teams, the next 2 teams are Falls 2 and Falls 1, and these teams, I saw both of them, and it doesn't surprise me that they're sitting in the middle of the pack. When if you have 12 teams, 6 and 7, that's the middle of the pack. Those are the exact middle, and that's right where they are. And it wouldn't surprise me if they beat the best team, which they beat Athens, and it wouldn't surprise me if they lost to the quote worst team, and they lost to teams that are seated well below them. And the reason is because they are a team who in their quizzes typically get up first more than any other team. They are a team who in 20 questions, 20 people will get up first. They're going to have over 10 of those. That's how they roll. And yet, so they have dynamic, extraordinary highs and catastrophic lows. And both of their teams are that way. And this is a typical Falls program. I mean, that's typically how Falls operates. So it's not surprising to see that. But it is just, it's middle of the pack. And until they get to the point where they're not getting up first as often and they're slowing down a little bit to have a higher success rate, I think that's where we're going to see them consistently.
As a coach, how would you tell them? What would you tell them to change?
I'd slow down. I mean, slow down.
How much?
Slow down.
I
mean, this is the thing.
Wait another word, another syllable.
Well, it's all in how you're trained. I mean, I think you should train to respond to the type of question, so that when a certain question comes, you know when you're going to stand up on that type of question. So I think it's hard to start at ground zero, and so in my teaching style may be very different than their coaches, but I consistently see them where they're getting up before other teams, and a team like that, I don't think they're going to win the tournament, and I hope they do. I mean, tournament is better when more teams can win. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I hope they do contend to win. But the thing is I don't think they're going to contend, but I think they could eliminate a team who would. Because they, like I said, they have dynamic highs. It's my understanding they were in a quiz against Athens 1 and the Z team, who most people kind of say are the top two, and they had over 200 points in that quiz.
Wow. And
I saw them in another quiz where two teams seated below them, they were quizzing against them, and they ended up with 30 points in a low. They're going to have it's kind of like in basketball, and I hate to. Well, I don't hate to. I love to, but other people don't necessarily. Other people don't necessarily understand them all the time. But when you talk about a team in basketball who lives and dies off the 3-pointer, and when they're hitting the 3-pointer, they could beat anyone.
J.R. Smith.
And then when they start missing the 3-pointers, they could lose to anyone. And I feel that's how falls into the tournament for me. That's where they are, and that's where they live, is right in the middle of the pack. Not because they can't beat the good teams, because they can, but they also can lose to the teams below them, and I think that's where they end up in the middle of the pack.
So they're a type of team that you always want to watch out for, because you don't know how. I mean, they could overjump a quiz. Or, like you said, they could be so dynamic.
Yeah, but even over jumping sometimes is successful.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not just because. And I always, when I coach teams, which is seldom now, but when I do, I always tell them, look, just because that team got the answer right doesn't mean they got up at the right time. So don't allow their correctness or incorrectness to affect the way you stand up. By the same token, just because they missed it doesn't mean they got up at the wrong time. There are times you get up at the right time and you just miss it. It's a verse where there happened to be two of the same preposition, or things like that happen. So you can't be results based in terms of the micro, looking at the specific question and say, well, I got that one right, so I need to get up at that time, or I missed that one, I shouldn't get up at that time. You can judge results on the macro. You can say we had 20 quizzes, that's 400 questions, and this is the proper time to get up. And that's what, looking at a whole day, a whole tournament, a whole season will do for you. But looking at an individual question and trying to extrapolate from that, I stood up at the right time or I stood up at the wrong time, I think is tough. But, to me, that's where they're going to end up. They're both going to end up somewhere between 5 and 8, that middle third, meaty portion of the tournament. They're going to have great high wins where they beat great teams, and then maybe they'll lose an early quiz to a team they shouldn't. That's falls to me. That's the falls I see. I don't know. I know you didn't see them, but
I did not get to see them.
Right.
I saw some of their quiz scores from here, but I completely agree from what I was able to see.
What do you see as the gap between top seed right now to bottom seed? Where's the difference in skill set right now?
Well, let's go to the number 8 team, the Bethel Cavalry. Some like to call them the Z team. I think they've scored the exact same number of points as the number 1 Z Temple. It just so happens that those 820 only achieved them 2 high wins, 2 middles, and 2 lows. Actually, the Z team scored 920. I'm sorry. Woodside, the 9th team, scored 820. So I would say the 9th team who scored 820 and the first team, Temple, who scored 820, they scored the exact same number of points. Now, it's kind of flukish that it's the exact same number, but it's not flukish that it's in the same area. It just so happens that those points got one team 3 highs and 3 middles and another team 2 highs, 2 middles, 2 lows. I would say you can go down to Woodside, who's 9th, and say that any of those teams can make a run. I predicted Pleasant View to finish in the top 5. I saw them have a quiz in my room that was just sensational, where I think they could have beat anybody in that quiz. But they don't have a dynamic quizzer. Remember how I said Hillsdale? The stats of a lot of middle wins shows me that's a team who has one great quizzer. Pleasant View is built off the team concept. They don't have that dynamic. I mean, they have good quizzers. The quizzers in the book are listed incorrectly, but they have Shekinah, they have Ashley, they have I'm trying to remember them.
Jordan, who we talked to earlier tonight.
Right. They have several good quizzers. We have talked about this on the podcast for 6 years now. The Bible Quizzer.net podcast. Those teams statistically never do as well as the teams with one really good quizzer.
So are you saying for a team dynamic, you're thinking you need one dynamic quizzer, maybe even close to dynamic, but not quite, and then some supporting cast?
It seems counterintuitive to say a team built off 2 to 3 good quizzers but without a great quizzer is not as good. It may seem that way. Mm-hmm. But this is where I say you can't look at the micro. You can't look at it. You've got to look in looking at 30 years of Bible quiz data. There's been one ministry who's won without a top quizzer. One. Now they won 5 times, but one ministry, and that was Schaumburg, Illinois. Beyond that, no team has contended and won titles without a top quizzer. Now, that tells me the way to build a team, you got to – I mean, you can't really build – it's not like basketball where you're going out and get a free agent or baseball or, or where, you might be a football team.
Convince a family to move or something.
Well, let's not go there. But it's not like a football where you happen to get a guy who other teams think may be washed up to play quarterback for you and he turns your team around.
Well, hey, I know that story.
Yeah, you can't necessarily – you can't plan who's on your team. Mm-hmm. So you quiz with the people that are in your ministry. So I'm not saying that you go out and you go out to the public school and say, hey, I think this kid would be good. Let's convert him. And, yeah, I mean, it just you can't work it that way. It doesn't happen. But what you can do is you can say, statistically speaking, those teams that have great quizzers are the ones that are going to win. I say you got 1 to 9. Those are all good teams that can all contend. You've got Kettle Moraine, who was missing a quizzer, so I'll give them a little bit of grace. They're going to have a 4th quizzer tomorrow. And from what I saw, Hannah was a top quizzer and could be a top quizzer. Pleasant View, I picked them to go top 5 in my preview. I'm backing off of that because they don't have that dynamic quizzer. They've got good quizzers. They've got 3 or 4 good quizzers, solid number 2 quizzers. But statistically, it just doesn't pan out that those teams do well.
Got you. So what do you see tomorrow once the elimination rounds start happening? What do you see from our top? What do you see as our top 5 going into the elimination? Do you think it's the same as what we got, or you think it might?
I think the Z team's going to go up in there. Yeah. I think Athens will stay there. Heritage looked really good, better than I predicted them to do. Temple looked good. Temple 2 looked good. I think we're going to see 4 of those teams. I think we're going to see Athens for sure, probably Hillsdale, probably Temple 1, and probably Heritage Mission. I think Temple 2 will probably not be in the top 6. I think one of the 2 Falls teams will be in the top 6. Because I say top 6, I would say top 5, but you always get down to 6 teams when the pre-bracket ends.
That's a good point.
So, to say 5, well, who got 5th in a tiebreaker?
Thinking like a true man around quizzing.
So I think one of the 2 Falls teams will make it. I think Bethel Calvary will be that 6th team. So I think that's it. I think once we get down, I think Athens is a top 3 team. I predicted beforehand Athens, Bethel Calvary, and Hillsdale, and I haven't seen a lot to convince me otherwise. I know Temple 2's had great results, but they haven't had as many points. The team that I'm most thinking surprised me was Heritage Mission, because they're exactly seemingly the opposite of what they were at Athens. At Athens, they had fewer points than everyone else, and yet made it further. Mm-hmm. Today, they have more points than everyone else, which really kind of says to me, maybe there's something to that. They were very impressive. They are the team. Of the teams I saw today, Athens impressed me, but I knew I was going to be impressed by them. That's like saying LeBron James impressed me when I saw him. Of course he did. He's great. Okay? I mean, to say that Athens impressed me, okay, let's move on to something non-redundant. Temple was good. I expected them to be pretty good. Hillsdale was good. They did about what I expected. Z team did worse than I expected. I'm kind of chalking some of that up to weariness, maybe too much, but I think they're going to recover. The team that surprised me, and good for them, Heritage Mission.
Calling them the X factor of this tournament, perhaps.
I'm saying that I didn't pick them to be the top 3. I'm going to stick with my prediction because I'm stubborn, but based on what I saw tonight, Heritage Mission is one of the top 3 teams in the country.
And we may have it's saying that we still have somebody from New York online. Josh, if you're still online, I'm not sure. I know you're excited to see your former team doing very well tonight.
They did great.
They really did.
I'm going to be honest. They're seeded second. They were the best team tonight, in my opinion. Now,
all of that can change once elimination starts.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I mean, being the best in the regular season is something, but it doesn't mean. And they're not the top seed. Temple's the top seed. But I felt like I watched all the teams quiz tonight. I felt like Heritage Mission did the best in the round robin tonight. They impressed me. I'm stubborn. I'm not changing my top 3. Well, do you guys want to throw out a top 3?
Go for it.
Well, I have been around this season's quizzing the least, and I saw the least tonight. But I'm gonna go Heritage. This is not in my exact order.
No, just 3.
So I'm gonna say Heritage, Athens, and I'm not sure whether to go with Z Team or Temple 1.
Well, I mean,
that's kind of my idea.
So you're picking 2 of my 3, and then Heritage as the team that honestly, they were one of the best 3 teams tonight. So I'm not picking them, but that's more my stubbornness.
And
they were good. They were
part
very
of it
good.
may be my bias. I mean, some of my closest friends are from Heritage, and
no,
so that
they
could
were
be my
great.
bias, but they looked great tonight.
They were the best team tonight. Now we just said that doesn't mean much, and I think the amount they were better than Athens was so minimal that I think Athens makes that up. They have had one less day to adapt, and they woke up 7 hours earlier today than the majority of the Heritage
and that's
Quizzers.
a little bit why I'm hesitant to give weariness a factor, seeing how Athens pushed through.
Yes, but Athens pushing through, you're talking about the team that was the undisputed number 1 team in the country, and they're seeded 3rd.
Very true.
So
very true.
yeah, they were weary. They didn't perform as well as we thought.
The worst quizzing
Yeah,
they've had.
How dare they?
Got the 48 points and 48 points in their highs, middles, and lows, and 930 overall.
Yeah. So Emily, you want to throw a top 3 out there?
Top 3 for us.
Oh, let's see. Well, I think Temple 1 will make it.
Okay, good pick. I mean, they've had good,
I really do.
good team. They've got. I think if you're saying, I think they have the best top 2 quizzers. I don't think another team, maybe Athens, excluding Athens from the conversation. No team has a 1 and 2 like Cullen and Ariane, in my opinion.
Man, I have to limit it to 3.
I think if we listed all 12 teams, we would get in that group the top 3.
Hey.
That's very possible.
I think it's a great
It's extremely
plan
possible.
It's definitely a plan. It's definitely a plan.
No, I'm going to go with Temple. I think the Z team will make it to the top. And
so we're all picking the Z team despite the fact they're 8th.
I don't know. There's just some about them.
They're good.
You know the potential that's there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
once they get some rest tonight and they get refocused.
That's a team we really didn't. They didn't perform as well as they should have tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think they'll talk about that in their hotel room tonight, or wherever they're staying.
I don't know where they're
and their
staying.
host at
Maybe they're sleeping in the limo.
They're going to talk about that, and I think they're gonna discuss what needs to be changed, what needs to be focused.
They have the most rambunctious coach. I'll give them that.
Absolutely. Who did refuse me an interview tonight?
Roscoe refused an interview?
I was a little disappointed.
Oh, man.
I talked to the boys, all 3 of the guys, and I was shot down. I was a little offended.
Well,
but no, I'm just kidding.
For that reason, you should exclude him. Okay, so you got the Z team, you got Temple 1. Who else you got, Emily?
Going off of not seen any of the quizzing. I mean, just listening to what you're saying.
Oh, that's scary right there.
Don't listen to
I love how our division.
I know.
I mean, this is probably what it is. The Division 2 expert will pick the best elite division top 3. I mean, that's how it always goes. So, I mean, listen to this. When you're going to Vegas tonight to bet, bet on the teams Emily's given you.
But I think Athens.
Will they win against the spread?
Yeah.
So you've got Athens, Temple, and Bethel Calvary or Z team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think
that's a solid pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, actually, not to sound biased or anything, but I think Woodside has a good chance of hitting 4th, if not
Woodside.
3rd.
Well,
or higher.
I in my preview, I commented on this. Woodside's a great team, but I believe, and I talked about this 2 podcasts ago on the BibleQuizzer.net podcast. But when you're talking about going to a tournament, you have 11 teams that are traveling, most of them multiple time zones away. Mm-hmm. They have to plan 4 or 5 days of what they're going to do. And you've got Woodside who wakes up and comes to a church they come to 3 times a week.
Right.
Absolutely.
I believe it is impossible for the human psyche to get as amped up about a tournament in your own church as it is. That's my opinion. And
I agree from experience.
So having said that, I think Woodside's a very good team. I think I don't remember where I voted necessarily, but they ended up ranked 5th or 6th after our last poll.
I think you might have had them at 5.
I think that's accurate. I think they're there. I don't think they're going to perform as well, and I just think it's normal. I mean, to suggest that Woodside would get up as much for a tournament at their place as they would for a tournament that teams are traveling 20 hours to and flying to and scheduling a whole weekend for and looking forward to all year, it's impossible.
It's very hard, very difficult.
I think it's hard. So I try not to have a bias. My bias is I like everybody. I mean, but I like Woodside. I want to see them do well. I just think it's hard at your own tournament to do well. I do.
I would agree.
I mean, I can completely.
You guys can
agree
both
with that.
speak to this. I
No,
can't.
Yeah. No, I see that. Like from personal experience, going to Athens, it's this great. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm so excited, and we're going to get on a plane, and we're going to go stay in a hotel.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, then the
but
Athens
seriously,
teams.
pool.
Yeah.
the pool, no.
The Athens teams don't get as amped up for that one
But
as they do
seriously.
this one, right?
But-
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But really, it's part atmosphere. I mean, seriously, cool. Yeah, it's cool to see
Yeah.
home church transformed into tournament.
It doesn't look like this all the time.
No.
What? What?
Unfortunately, there are not always
There's
the men's in the bathroom. I'm always disappointed the Sunday after CI.
No, the
Seriously.
people who talk to you are the ones who are most disappointed at the lack of mints in the bathroom. No,
Ouch.
but no, it's funny because I was talking to Pastor Jono before I came here, and we're talking about, well, what if we need something? I'm like, you can make your Woodside teams do stuff in the kitchen. Yeah, they can set stuff up.
That's true.
I mean, it's work. I mean, and I'm not trying to dog it. That's how it is. And when you host a tournament, that's the way it goes. And you want to do well. I just don't think so. All that to say, I'm making excuses for Woodside to not do as well as I think they are. I think they're top 5, top 6 team in the country, and I don't think they're going to place there, not because they're not good, but because of the situation, because of the distance and that sort of thing. We also have the Scripture homeschool home educator group. Did not do as well as we thought they would. I saw them in a couple quizzes, and they had some couple of good showings, but they didn't do as well as I predicted them to do.
And just from talking with them in an interview, I think just team confidence levels are just they're not up there. They're having a great time together, which is awesome. You want to see teams get along.
Has anyone come to this tournament and not had a great time? I mean, seriously.
It's true.
No.
This is the best tournament in the country.
It's impossible.
Yeah. I mean, not just the quality quizzing, although that is the best.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there is
Food.
this I mean, and you guys can't speak to this the same way I can because you guys go here. But let me just brag about Woodside for a minute here. There is no tournament in the country that has the church buy in and contribute and makes it an event beyond just quizzing for 8 hours like Woodside does. It's incredible. If you've never been, like people always say you need to have a bucket list of things you want to do. If you like Bible quiz, your bucket list should contain come to CI one year. I mean, even if you live on the East Coast, I mean, I do.
Ski day as well.
Well, okay. I like ski day. I just don't ski. You know, I've said this before. No one wants to watch a fat man tumble. You know, I mean, it's just not exciting. So,
once or twice down the mountain, and then you're done.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's
what's
move on
that
with my
cannonball rolling down the hill? Oh, it's just some fat guy.
No.
Yeah, that's no one wants that. So okay, well let's each give our closing points and what you think. Tell us what you thought about the day. What you think about the day ahead.
Oh man, I am so excited for tomorrow. Just from the CITV host aspect, all the different.
Which thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, I've had a blast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if those online have had a blast with me.
Well, we love that you do it.
If you're watching, you've become a great friend of mine. You've been helping me out, keeping people updated with scores. Thank you. I don't even know you, but thank you. But I'm so excited for tomorrow. And tonight was great, getting to meet new people. There were very few interviews I did with people that I knew.
Yeah.
Which, for me, is usually rare, because usually I've been able to know so many.
You don't on an arbitrary Sunday walk up to people and say, "Hey, let me interview you."
Well, you know, it happens every once. No, but just getting to know people and having a great time with them, and then seeing familiar faces as well is always one of the great things about Bible Quiz. Is it's incredible friendships that you build, and I've built great friendships. Emily, I'm sure you have.
Absolutely.
And Matt is one of those great friends that I've met.
Thank you.
And it's so exciting just to see that, especially tonight, the excitement. Oh, I haven't seen you in months, or I haven't seen you in this long or that long or whatever. And so that was the excitement tonight. And then tomorrow, I'm so pumped for all the different time that we'll have to talk throughout the day with all the different buys, the lunch hour, different people passing through, being able to get some great interviews. There's people I've set up with tomorrow, like, all right, tomorrow I'll get with you and talk with you tomorrow. Some people I think you guys will really love to hear from.
Yeah. Well,
cliffhanger.
Excellent.
I don't want to promise anything in case they bail on me. Then my
Emily, what is your closing thought?
Oh man, well Donald kind of took it from me, but that's okay. No, I'm just honestly, I'm excited just to see the fresh faces. I mean, there's a lot of new people here that I've been in quizzing now.
Yeah,
what, 5?
I'm sure my producer will say something over the loudspeaker about how many new ministries this year that have never come before. But
it's
at least 3 or 4, right? 3? 4 teams, 3 ministries.
Wow, that's so awesome to see.
It's just it's really exciting for me because I don't know. I enjoy. I'm speaking specifically second division because that's what I'm more involved with right now.
Because you're our Division 2 spy this year. Right.
Exactly. But I'm excited to see how so many of the teams, they're not, I don't know, maybe intimidated, if that's the right word. They're not. They're just excited. They're excited to be a part of it, and kind of playing off of what Jono was saying about building friendships. I just love the quizzing in general because you have common ground. Yeah, so many times, like I use the excuse where I'm like, oh, well, I don't really have anything to talk with them about, but because that's me all the time. But I go to these people and I'm like, I can talk to them about, if nothing else, the word. Yeah. I mean, how exciting is that?
Sure.
That everybody around here, oh my word, they're just like me. They are memorizing God's word.
Yeah, we had a BibleQuizzer.net series 2 years ago now where we had people from the past write articles, and one of the things, and I'm biased, my sister's was the best, but one of the things she said that I just love it, and we applied it when we were younger, and now it's something that really that really is meaningful from a different perspective for me. But she's like, make friends with your opponents. Make friends with your opponents.
True.
Absolutely.
It's and she said some of them you'll end up going to spend time at their houses with. Some of them you'll go to college with. Some of them you may not see for 10 years and you'll bump into later, and that happens. And there's a camaraderie to this event that we call Bible quizzing that is just phenomenal. And so that's that's something just phenomenal
Absolutely.
about it. So
I think that principle right there, make friends with your what do you say? Make
opponents.
Friends with opponents.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's hard to even think of them as that here.
I know, it's true. Because I think that, if anything, it makes quizzing just all that much more fun. It's not It's not so much, okay, focus, they're your enemy, you do not let them win kind of thing. It's like, oh man, I have to go against my friends. Well, good luck to you. I'm really excited to go against you. I know you're good. You know, kind of thing. Not.
And when you've made friends with them, most of us want our friends to do well.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean,
so
I don't
you're gonna be excited for them if they win.
I don't walk into a place saying, "Oh man, I want my friends to do terribly."
Well, I've had the experience, as I mentioned before. I have great friends from New York, Steph and Josh. If you guys are watching, you guys will remember this, and every now and then we'll still rub it in my face. Multiple years in a row, it comes down to these are Division II finals. I want to say it's probably 3. They'll correct me. 3 years in a row, I think it comes down final quiz between Woodside and Heritage, and Heritage beat us 3 years in a row in the finals. And those are some of my closest friends. I've gone out to see them a couple times this last summer. I had a great time staying with the Browns. But like you said, make friends with your opponents, and then like Emily said, it's almost hard to think of them as opponents.
It's
that
true.
way.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I mean, we come in. I started quizzing so many years ago. My first quiz was in 1982. Before you were born, for sure. Maybe before your parents were born. I mean, I am old.
BE.
Yeah, I don't need to hear about all that. But I am old. So I've been involved in quizzing for, if you do the math, 32 years. To one extent or another, I've done many different facets. David Poston likes to call me a Bible quiz renaissance man. So, but the thing is the number of friends I've made through Bible quizzing has just been phenomenal, and I've made them in different venues and different ways, and close to it's a phenomenal thing, and there's something, a kinship that you have with these people that just is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, I'll close us off with with some questions I've asked everyone tonight.
Okay.
If we're coming to a close.
We're about to come to a close. Well, no, we are coming to a close. Someone, the producer, handed me a note wanting to say, as we said, that Kettle Moraine was going to get a little bit stronger tomorrow. They're going to get a fourth quizzer. And we mentioned that earlier. We said Hannah was really good, and Samuel's flying in tomorrow, and so we knew that. I'm guessing that means that we have someone out there who's picking Kettle Moraine to do better, to get top 5 or something. Is it this? That's what I'm hearing. Yeah, I mean, our producer, man, he's a gutsy one.
He's sticking it out there.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Ask your questions. All right.
Questions. So I'm gonna ask this one. For fear, I'm going to back up because Emily's father's right behind the camera. And Emily might need a backup too. My question that I've asked just about every quizzer tonight, Emily.
Yes,
do you have a Valentine?
Do you realize that today is also known as Singles Awareness Day?
You know, that has been a topic, and there's a young man from California whom I talked to earlier today who also agreed to Singles Awareness Day, he said, but Valentine's Day is not yet over. I'm just putting it out there. We could maybe do a group interview tomorrow.
That was very sweet, Jono. No, I do not have a Valentine.
I'm not even sure what you're getting at with this.
I don't want to know.
Jono, did you take this job as the CITV host purely to try to get a girlfriend?
Oh, no, it's to play matchmaker.
Oh, okay.
See, I like to help others.
You're such a giving soul.
There you are, giving your all for the task.
You know, it's what I do. It's just kind of my thing. They call me Cupid.
All right, is that the only question you've been asking?
Nobody.
No. I have a Valentine. Do you want to ask me? I have a Valentine. You know, I'm married.
I did know that.
Yeah, and my wife is at home with 2 of the 3 kids, and the other one is here. Hi. She's waving. Hi, Emily. So that would... You know, I'm married and my wife is my Valentine. I'm not sure what you're wanting. Anyway, but yes.
My real question to end with, our theme is the greatest is charity. Out of the characteristics of charity in 1 Corinthians 13, which one means the most to you? And quickly, in just a few seconds, tell me why.
I need the scripture portion so I can look it up.
Been in Bible quizzing for 32 years, and 1 Corinthians 13 slips his mind.
Are you insinuating that I've learned that chapter? I didn't quiz over. Well, no, it's funny. I was talking with someone, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were talking about how, you know, how does the world describe love? And he goes through all these things as like it's and he had like 30 terms that different musical pieces or different things will define love as. And he said, but you go to 1 Corinthians 13, it defines it as patient, kind. That I don't know the passage as well as Emily does. Emily, quote it to us.
I'm not in 1 Corinthians.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, now you don't know it. I get criticized for not knowing it, but hey, no. In all honesty, the fact is when we read about what love or charity should be, we often find ourselves lacking, and that's unfortunately Mark Twain said that a lot of people complain about the parts they don't know about Scripture. He said the parts that scare me are the parts I know, the parts I understand. That's what scares me. And I mean, as I read 1 Corinthians 13, that's what comes to mind, is because as I read it, I find where I am falling so short in so many ways.
The description here.
And John has pulled it up so he can read it to us. But no. I mean, we know, the chapter, and it talks about there are good things. There's faith, hope, and charity, but the greatest is charity. And I think if we can take that to heart and we can live that in our lives, and we can exemplify that 1 Corinthians 13 type of love, I think that we would be better people. And if we're better people, we're going to ignite the world for Christ.
Amen. Absolutely. Emily, same question. Of those characteristics in 1 Corinthians 13 of charity, which means the most to you and why?
I think the most meaningful to me is charity never faileth. And for obviously taking the charity meaning love, I think of how God is love. And I just always apply that God's never going to stop loving me. And no matter how I fail, no matter if I win a Bible quizzing tournament, no matter if I'm in the top 10, even though I'd really like to be in the top 10, no matter what I do or how I mess up, God is never going to stop loving me. And I don't know, that has always meant so much for me to understand and to know. And even, Jono, you brought that out. It's just a couple weeks ago in a little talk that you gave with us teens, and it just it's rung true in my heart. Amen. And it's something that I enjoy meditating on, to know that He's always there and He's always going to love me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to know that we are not defined by the shortcomings we see in ourselves.
Amen.
But we are defined by Christ's righteousness. He lived a righteous life so that we may display that as our own. And when God looks at us, He sees that. That's incredible. That's incredible to think about, and that's incredible to know. And again, we've talked about Bible quizzing a lot. We have some good teams. We're going to have a great day of quizzing on Saturday. Most people will probably listen to this or see this on Saturday morning. I think we're going to run it like we did last year at 8 o'clock.
Yes, 8 o'clock
Mountain
right
time.
Mountain time.
And that would be so. But of course, if you're listening, you already know that. So we don't need to say that. We can crop that out, right? I don't want to look too stupid.
What about you, Jono? Answer your question.
For my own question, oh man,
it's easier to ask the questions than to
it
answer
is.
them. Yeah.
I've been I ask that because I've been meditating on it a lot, and I know you're not supposed to say all of them, so I'm not going to as much as I would like to. I would have to say towards the end of those descriptions, before it jumps into whether it be prophecies they should fail, etc. It beareth all things and endureth all things. No matter what happens to you, no matter what somebody does to you, because we know that every single person we know will probably fail us in one way or another at some point or another, and that's sad to think about, but it's true. However, God's love, it never fails, like Emily mentioned, and because it is an unfailing love, it can bear all things and endure all things. No matter what somebody does, the love of God, God's love for you and God's love in you, through you and to other people, can endure and bear anything that they do against you, and you can still share God's love with them. And so those things have meant the most to me.
All right. Well, with that, do we have any other witticisms with which to close this program?
I've got nothing.
All right. Well, this has been the CITV Friday recap. See ya.
Peace out.
Bye.